supporting unit, the person I was talking to on the other end, wanted me to estimate the number of rounds that had been exchanged. Being somewhat frustrated, I simply keyed the mic, held it up, so you could hear an awful lot of noise, guns being fired, explosions going off. And then I asked him if he had counted the number of rounds that had been fired. His response was that they would be sending us support post haste. So so at this point, there was, like I said, there was a high volume of ordnance being exchanged. If I remember correctly, we had shot about 150 rounds of high explosive artillery into that area. Along with that, we were supported by gunships and South Vietnamese A1E close air support. This was the first time I had been directly supported by helicopter gunships, and the first time they fired, I thought they were shooting us. It was so close because the rockets go off behind you and then the impact in front of you, and you're pretty much bracketed by two explosions. And then the A1Es, they came in as well. I think they did a very good job. Everybody that I know that talked about Vietnamese A1E support there was pretty happy with what they experienced. I don't know specifically how many gunships runs there were now. I don't remember. I can say that helicopter support, we did have some resupply come in, and when they brought in, we were running low on ammo, and we were running low on smoke grenades. So when the resupplies helicopter came in, they dropped both the smoke and the ammo, and they dropped it long. It overshot us and went into the North Vietnamese perimeter. This would cause us a problem. I found early on our basic load, we were supposed to carry, I think, 700 rounds of 5.56 ammo for our M16s, 2 smoke grenades, and 2 fragmentation grenades. But I learned as a forward observer that even though frags were maybe a little more fun to deal with, the smoke was much more beneficial, especially when you had fast movers coming in. Mm-hmm. Frags go off once and smoke and certainly mark your positions. The problem was, though, here is that the North Vietnamese was popping smoke all over the valley.
Just spoofing. Yeah.
So we had yellow smoke, green smoke, whatever smoke, purples. I don't remember, but it was kind of a rainbow effect, so to speak, for a while, and that created a problem. I can remember back in basic training when we were told that there may be a time you'd be asked to give up your ammo to give it to somebody else. At the time, when I heard that in basic training, that didn't make sense to me. However, I realized the wisdom of that once it was apparent that we were all about out of ammo, and my job was to adjust artillery and not shoot an M16. and I needed somebody out here shooting an M16 to allow me to do my job. And so we did that, and I think I ended up with being allowed 2 magazines. I can't remember for sure, but I think that's what it was. One of the things at this horseshoe, at the end of the horseshoe, or the open end of the horseshoe, the terrain was flat. And there were like scrub trees. But we didn't have a way of really getting them down. We didn't have saws, or we didn't have anything to cut them down. So a number of our soldiers were running across this landing zone, which were open to fire by the North Vietnamese, and then jumping and trying to tackle the tree to break it off, so we could get our helicopters in to resupply us, get Corporal Brown out, and bring in some reinforcements later on. We had to also, to do that, we had to expand the perimeter. We were really thin then. We were probably, I would guess that you were maybe 20, 30 feet, maybe more than that, between each man trying to secure this area so we could bring in helicopters. Somewhere along this line, and I throw this in, it just, at some point I remember seeking some shelter because we had incoming small arms fire behind a red anthill. That was not my best move of the day, for sure. Just to go back a little bit, I think the first shot was probably fired as we were coming down the ridge. I'm guessing it was around 10:30 in the morning, something like that. And so when I say when the firefight had kind of waned, that was probably more like around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it had gone on for way long enough. After the firefight had waned and we were clearing the area, the North Vietnamese soldier that shot Corporal Brown had been found, and he was attended to. During this lull, and this is really kind of I found to be quite surreal, because think about it, there had been several airstrikes, gunships, 750 rounds of ammunition, or of high explosive artillery, in a firefight, and we had 2 North Vietnamese soldiers walk into the middle of our landing zone.
Were they bomb shocked, or just happened to be
sling arm, like they were walking in the park? Just came walking out of the woods and into the landing zone. I'll simply say that the machine gunner and the N-79 man dispatched them. Our company commander had sent the weapons platoon in a patrol to get us to reinforce us. They never made it. They never made it because they got lost. It's not something happened to them. They got lost. They never found us. And so sometime after that, I'm guessing it was probably about 3:30 or so, Company C led by Captain Powell, landed on our LZ and reinforced us. There really wasn't much left to do there other than make sure everybody was secure on helicopters and ready to leave. And essentially at that time, the event was over. And probably, that was probably by 4 o'clock now, and we returned to base. And so we went back to Ankei, is where we had been stationed out of.
Was the firefight have a name or a location that you can remember?
No.
It was just a normal anonymous day.
Yeah.
On the
Yeah.
10th of May.
Yeah. It wasn't a Hamburger Hill or the Ashaw Valley or the Hydrate. It was
what thousands of troops experienced every day in Vietnam, and
Yeah.
from what I hear, Corporal Brown's death was bad luck.
Absolutely.
In his hip deep grass, he accidentally stepped on the wrong guy, whereas 10
Yeah.
feet over, he could not have. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
bad luck.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
a lot of deaths happen even today with car accidents. Just bad luck.
Yeah, that is exactly it. He was, I'm sure the North Vietnamese soldier was shooting at the machine gunner, and the machine gunner really, just in timing, had stepped past him. And that bullet was allowed to carry on, and it caught Corporal Brown. Back at Ankei, and this was kind of a thing, and I had to think about this for a while. But looking back, when we had been in a firefight or whatever, when that was over, we got issued a clean uniform. And if you hadn't been in a firefight, I think sometimes we wore the same uniform for a month. And so it was just kind of an odd thing. And so we got to take a warm shower. It doesn't sound like a big deal here, but trust me, it was a big deal back then. We were served a hot meal, and the day was done. And it really wasn't really much more than that. Just a note about Corporal Brown, and the thing I want to say about him. You know, he was a paratrooper. He was assigned to Company B, 1st of the 503rd Infantry, with the 173rd Airborne. He was a triple volunteer. He volunteered for the Army, he volunteered for paratrooper training and assignment, and I suspect he volunteered for Vietnam. The job he was assigned as an assistant machine gunner is a very difficult task. It is extremely dangerous. When you can be in a firefight, and when the machine gun opens up, you can have a firefight and be pretty much equally distributed across the front, almost kind of like round for round across a fence or something. You know, I'm shooting straight across, and they're shooting straight back at me. But as soon as the machine gun opens up, it is like a cone, and everything from the enemy comes to the machine gunner. Because they want to shut him down. They have to shut him down. And so the machine gunner is a real threat. The assistant machine gunner has got some real responsibility. Number one, he's got to make sure that he's got the ammo being fed to the machine gunner. So he is up there. He doesn't get to shoot. He's feeding the machine gunner. The machine gunner is shooting. He also has to be prepared to take over for the machine gunner if the machine gunner becomes injured. He has to step in immediately. He has to carry a lot of ammo. Ammo is very heavy. Corporal Brown paid the ultimate price, supporting our government and the cause of freedom. I think of him. I did not know him personally, but I think of him, and I think of him often. And it's interesting, as I told Colonel Peoples here, that I probably have known that Corporal Brown was from Prescott, Arizona, way before I even thought about moving to Arizona. It's back when I was living in Wisconsin and Illinois. And so I carry that with me, and I thought, you know what, I ought to tell this story. While I still can remember it, or I'm still around to tell it. And so hopefully this gives some closure to those family members, and this is of some benefit.
Thank you very much, sir.